Hi, my name is Garrett Gunther, and I'm here today to do my final presentation for food service management at Kendall College. Our assignment was to interview a higher up in the food service industry, managers, chefs, someone like that. I decided to interview my old boss from at the restaurant I used to work at. The name of the restaurant is Last Chance Lakeside Cafe. It is located in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. I worked there for 2 years, 1 year being under this man as general manager full-time. He was full-time for about a year and a half when I started. He has been working at this restaurant for about 10 years now. At least he started as a server and worked his way up to bartender and eventually general manager. So he was hired from within. He shares his general managing duties somewhat kinda with one of the part owners. I asked him several questions about what he deals with on a day-to-day basis, as well as a few questions about his philosophy on managing people. The first question I asked him was about what challenges does he face, and he said that the biggest challenge for him is unforeseen circumstances. He talked about how the food service industry is ever changing and no one can really predict how customers will react towards certain products. He told me that the answer to this issue was constantly researching clientele, staying current on the industry, and keeping up with fads, because Lord knows people love a good fad and will pay for it. The second question I asked concerned communication barriers in the industry. He talked about how everyone in the industry should be personally accountable for communication, because if one person doesn't communicate in the restaurant during a service, then the whole restaurant suffers. He mentioned how if employees don't ask questions and act alone to fix an issue, usually they just mess it up more. I can personally attest to this because I used to work with him. For instance, and this was the big one, when a kitchen would run out of something during a service and a server never bothered to ask if we were out or whatever, and rung up said product, then the manager would have to go to that table and explain to the customer how we ran out of it. And that's just never a good thing. It makes the customer unhappy, which can affect profitability. The third question I asked him dealt with how he resolves conflict. He resolves conflict based on a cost-benefit analysis, saying if a conflict cannot be resolved, then the employee with the least value will be let go. I know for a fact that he absolutely hates letting customers see issues within the restaurant, and he feels that really negatively affects business, and obviously letting customers see a squabble between two employees makes the customer feel like the restaurant is not fit to be open, I guess is the phrase I'm looking for. Next question I asked him dealt with how he deals with the stress of the job. And I know every night after all of his managerial duties are done and the restaurant's closed down for the night, that he sits at the bar and watches some sporting event on TV and drinks a beer or two. I know that's how he deals with the stress of the job. Whenever he doesn't do this, you can tell he gets burnt out. Which is one of the things he says to try and avoid at all costs. Letting yourself get burnt out it develops a resentment for your job, I guess. If you stress yourself out, you don't want to do the job anymore, you start doing a bad job. You know. I know Matt leads a very demanding life in various aspects. You know, he's dealing with a divorce, he has a kid in the divorce, a bunch stuff like that. Yet he still manages to work 50, 60, 70 hours a week at the restaurant. Next question I asked was about his decision-making process. Again, he said that the cost-benefit analysis is the best way, and I know this, that this decision-making process is the best because whatever he decides is working, because he's been increasing sales over the last general manager. So next I asked him about what he looks for in a new recruit, other than the general, things, like cleanliness, punctuality stuff he mentioned. One of the things I find interesting is that he looks for employees that are willing to be there, and they're not just there for the check. This attribute is important in the sense that all restaurants are a well-oiled machine, and if one cog isn't lubed up, i.e. they're willing to work as part of the team, then the machine won't work. The 7th and 8th questions I asked were about what types of questions he asked during an job interview and how he trains employees. The new applicant questions were very generic, asking about the individual's work history in the industry as well as what they look for in a restaurant. What caught my attention during the interview was how he trains new servers at the restaurant. How we would train a new server is we would have them shadow a veteran server and get them exposed to what it's like to work in that particular restaurant, which I feel like that's probably one of the better ways to train new employees, mainly servers. Next, I asked Matt how he tries to keep his turnover rate low, employee turnover rate low. He mentions how every employee is different, but the best way to keep the turnover rate low is to treat each employee with respect and give them, incentives. I know from personal experience that he also tries to make employees feel part of the group, which relates to his answer to another question about how he motivates his employees. I know that he invites employees out to go drinking after work on the weekends, and that really helps to form a tight-knit group and help motivate people to help each other. I asked him what his biggest reward from the job is, and I agree with this completely, is the sense of accomplishment you get from putting a ton of work into something and having that work pay off big time. That's the greatest feeling. Next question I asked him was how hard he finds it to find quality employees. And I know because the restaurant's in a retirement community, there's not terribly many young people who are willing to work in the restaurant. So he has to go out to other demographic areas, which are 20 minutes, 30, 45 minutes away. And I know some of the employees commute 45 minutes, an hour to work there. But Matt does such a good job making the commute worthwhile that most of the employees look forward to the commute. The next question I ask concerns what he has learned from the job. This job specifically, he said that he learned that you cannot please everybody, but you can please most people. One of the prominent points I got from this discussion was how he doesn't take it personally when a customer isn't satisfied due to the fact that it is impossible to make everybody happy, and you shouldn't sweat it. Then the 15th question I asked him was if there were any mistakes he's made early on in his managerial experience, to which he replied that everyone makes mistakes. Of course they do. He says that his biggest mistake was giving a certain employee too many chances to shape up, I should say, and how his only regret about this situation was not firing that employee sooner. I know this former employee, and I had mentioned him in a previous discussion board assignment, and honestly I'm shocked that the owner didn't come and forcibly remove him after a few things he did. The 16th question I asked involved whether or not his management technique differed from department to department. According to him, he has the same standards for all employees, but certain departments require certain managerial techniques. For example, back of the house employees who deal with the product need not be focused on customers because that's the server's job. They need to be focused on food and not pleasing the customer. Well, keeping an employee focused on their main component of their job is key to properly managing. The last question I asked Matt is what his philosophy is for managing people. His response is that you have to give respect to earn respect. And I know he worked tirelessly to do this with everybody. I know if an employee disrespected Matt, then he wouldn't respect him back, and eventually those people usually got fired or left. I respect his philosophy. He also said that good employees make mistakes, but bad ones make the same mistakes repeatedly. I've seen that go down at the restaurant a lot. Matt usually can tell and will usually fires the employee before they get a chance to mess up. What I got from this interview with Matt Curtis is that he's been a significant player in the success of the restaurant over the previous general manager. He's increased sales, decreased turnover rate, and overall he's made it a better place to work. I personally admire Matt on a professional level. If I were to ever open a restaurant one day, I would know I would want him as my general manager. So, that was my interview.